My name is Alex Barham. Today I am reviewing the Dagger Nova and Dagger Super Nova. These are what are known as full slice whitewater kayaks. That means that they have a low volume bow and a low volume stern. They are really meant to be super playful, standing up on both ends, cartwheeling, fun run boats. They are not the highest performance. They are for being a dork in, having fun in, making your average run super entertaining when it otherwise might not be. The other thing to say about this type of boat is they sort of were dead for 15 years. Dagger hasn't made a full slice boat since the id, and that was sort of a hybrid to the modern playboat. They haven't even made a modern playboat in like 10 years. So this is something really different from these guys. Why now? Well, because they're popular again. Many people, myself included, have started collecting these old full slice boats that were made in the late 90s and early 2000s. Now that they're collector's items, they are expensive enough suddenly to justify actually buying one retail. That said, as a collector, I love all of my many different full slice boats, but what I can tell you is that they always leave something on the table. Every single one. You can spend a lot of time arguing with someone over which one's the best, but there's no question that none of them are as good as their modern counterparts. You know, we took the RPM that went to a BRAP, that went to a Rewind. Really amazing boats. But you can still go and get in these things from 20 years ago, and there's nothing really on the modern market that's made them wildly better. That's where the Nova really comes in. It takes a lot of these problems and off the bat gets rid of them. Your skirts fit properly, your outfitting's fantastic, there are no stupid bolts below the waterline, your feet are comfortable, there's modern rocker, it surfs better than any other full slice on the market. It just starts off by blowing everything else in this space out of the water. Rowdy? They had to. There was no way around it. If you're going to shell out brand new boat money when all you're really getting is outfitting and warranty, that's not good enough. The Nova started off with a meeting in a driveway. The head of marketing, the head designer, put their boat collection out and said, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna make this better? What do we want as the end goal? Coming on the heels of the Rewind, the Super Nova feels really similar. It carries speed, it is very well placed, you feel confident and able to just ride up and over and high, boof easy. All of those things come together in this package in a way that you do not get in any other full slice. I spent about a month in the Super Nova, and then I immediately turned around and spent a couple days in some of my favorite in my collection, my Super Ego, Ultrafuge, Session Plus, just to make sure that I hadn't missed anything. And what I really found going back was, what I missed was the Super Nova. I was so confident and comfortable and able to try new things. I was doing moves in places I had never done them before because I had the confidence. I had the boat underneath me. I didn't need a recovery stroke here and there. I was just ready to go. Ultimately, would I ever trade away my collection? No, I spent a lot of time and a lot of effort building it, and I love it. But if I were in a position where I could only have one full slice, it would still be the Super Nova. So let's talk about what makes that boat right. So we're gonna start from the center and work our way out. First, best thing about this boat is the cockpit area. It's a big, full-size, modern cockpit pulled off of a Dagger creaker. You got high knees, which makes the comfort and the positioning really top-notch. It's the modern frog leg style you're used to, not a straight leg style like you find in a lot of the early full slices. Gives you a lot of control and much better balance in the boat. Next thing you're gonna notice is that area around the paddler is packed with volume, but it's not super high. So that retains the sliciness of the boat, but by having a slightly wider kind of donut around the paddler of volume, what you have is a boat that consistently stays high on the surface, surfs really well because of the wideness in the planing hull, and it's very easy to balance on end. Basically, the further out you put a balloon of volume in the boat, the more when the boat's vertical and it's down deep in the water column, it's gonna try to run away from you. Because the Supernova retains that dagger taper in the stern and the bow, it really feels amazing on end. You can stand it up on an any line and just keep it down for as long as you want. There's no volume trying to sneak and squirrel away from you as soon as you get slightly off balance. The paddler has a ton of control to force the boat underneath them and maintain it, but you still have that length to give you that wingy feel that you want. Now let's work out towards the ends. I'm gonna start with the bow. So unlike the Ultrafuge and the Ergo, which are very wide going out along your legs and out to the bow, the Supernova is much more tapered. What this does is it makes the boat much more agile on the wave and in the river. You're not pushing this big spoony thing around in front of you and winding up with a lopsided boat. By making the boat much more symmetrical in its width, front and back, the Supernova has a real glide to it. It gets up to hull speed quickly, holds it really well, and keeps it consistently going over features. It makes it very predictable and confidence inspiring, and it's just a pleasure to paddle. By comparison, some of the other full slices, you'll do that full slice nosedive, right? When the bow does catch, because you have a big spoon up front, it basically hits an unintentional bow stall, comes to a complete stop, and then you're at the mercy of the river. When combined with quite a bit of aggressive, continuous rocker, the Supernova's bow is able to stay very dry and jump up and over things. And honestly, that's sort of my pet peeve when I paddle old school full slices. I hate that my bow is always getting wet and I'm coming to stops. I'm usually sneaking as far back as I can in the boat and suffering elsewhere for it. So being able to paddle dead center properly and have everything work out beautifully, have that bow always dry and fast and nimble, is incredible. Okay, let's go to the stern. I know it's the part that you probably want to hear the most about. Well, this is a relatively typical Dagger stern. It has a water shedding deck. It is pointing out to the end. Honestly, it could have been a little shorter for me. Personal preference. But the main difference for you is going to be that it has a volume distribution that harkens to the ID or even a Delirious. Again, that donut of volume going around the paddler. By packing that volume right there, it gives you sort of a cushion to sit on when the boat is vertical, and it makes the boat have less depth it needs when it's standing up. That means that more spots are more playful. When the boat is playing, it is very easy to control. It doesn't have a real corking bob to it. It's very stable on end. Once you lock it in, it is very easy to keep spinning or just stall. You have a level of control with a full volume, full size, full slice boat that often you would wind up going to a smaller size boat just to be able to hold the bow up for that long. Let's wrap this boat description out with the hull. If you've seen the Rewind, this really shouldn't be a lot of surprises. It also winds up being relatively close to a XXX. You've got a beautiful lowered, big planing surface, which allows the boat to be very fast and very loose on a green wave. The chines are right there though, ready to carve and drop in. And again, with that rear stern taper, it gives you a level of edging and control that is just so beautiful and iconic when it comes to Dagger full slice boats. The Nova is a modern day piece of history, and you will love the way that this harkens back to the Ultrafuge, the Ergos, with the way that the Supernova surfs. It's absolutely fantastic. But at the same time, because you have this huge planing surface, the boat has a good amount of width, When it surfs, it skims super high. That means it is fast, it is loose, and it's not constantly bouncing. It's usually in a really fast, stable surf. Truly, there were times where I thought I could put a glass of wine on my bow and it wouldn't spill. By the same token though, it's so quick that I could throw blunts, I could cartwheel waves, I could kick flip. I was doing all sorts of tricks that I absolutely cannot do in my other boats. I went back and tried it again just to be sure. I really think the Supernova just kills it in that respect. One of the things that we're doing now with these boats too, if we're all being honest, is we're starting to take them creeking. And that makes me really nervous in certain old school boats. Some of them had good kits in them. Some of the Wave Sports, some of the Liquid Logics, but there were certain boats out there, the Egos, the IDs, that have terrible outfitting in them. There's almost no structural strength to the boat. If you were to crush it, you're in deep trouble. So one of the things that I love about the Supernova and all of the new Dagger boats is they're using the full creaker system. There's a solid step out pillar. There is a fully reinforced, interlocked track in there. The boat is stiff as a board, and not only is that a safety feature, but it means it's going to last a lot longer. Throw into the fact it's Dagger Contour Ergo, which is the best outfitting in the game. That is a huge plus for this boat. I spend so much time in aggravation modifying them into these old school boats. To be able to get that and a warranty for free, don't have to break out tools, is huge for a lot of people. But back to creaking. So because you've got an aggressive amount of rocker, the stern actually releases on waterfalls. Very often, if you're trying to boof or anything like that, if there's going to be any amount of rock contact, you really have to wonder, is this full slice boat going to boof, or is it going to go over the handlebars and Burning Man me? And that all comes down to the fact that the rocker profiles, what rocker profiles? There really wasn't much to speak of. So because there's this aggressive amount of rocker, you're going to find the Supernova boofs both in water and off rocks in a way that you are not used to seeing in this style of boat. And that, again, builds confidence, opens up doors, allows you to go and try things that usually you'd kind of be maybe stumbling through and do it with ease. I have run the bottom moose at a lot of different levels with a lot of different full slice boats, and I can easily say that this was my favorite lap I've ever done in a full slice. I was able to catch any eddy I wanted to, play any line I wanted to. I didn't have to worry about missing a boof and slamming my toes. Everything was just easy. And because I just felt so well placed and in control in the boat, I was trying moves that I've never tried before, and that's my home run. Now, I did a lot more than that. I ran a number of class 2, class 3, class 4 runs in this boat. And one of the things that absolutely blew my mind was I did a 19-mile day on the Hudson in it. And that's a 4+ hour ride, just nonstop in your boat. And I was comfortable. I would really put all of that, again, to that leg position, the modern outfitting, but also the foot block in this boat is utterly fantastic. It's an onion style, so you can add and remove shims. The design of it is absolutely perfect. It is something new that I have not seen before in another foot block in terms of how it holds you in. It's extremely comfortable, and I've honestly copied it and started putting it into my other boats because it's that good. Now, there are some nitpicks I have for this boat. The first one is super stupid, but the white color on a bright day is blinding. I think a lot of people are gonna wind up doing kind of cool art on them, and it's gonna be great, but whatever. The second thing is much more important, and that is there are some bits and bobs missing, okay? Namely, grab handles. There are only 2 grab handles. They're very close up to the paddler. While they are very well spaced for tying the boat to the rack, they are useless for a rescue, for either picking up a swimmer or clipping this boat if it's pinned. That's a big deal to me because I would love to be able to say that, hey, you can even teach and do safety boating out of this boat and it's gonna be a blast. Well, I tried to pick up a swimmer and I couldn't. She could not find the grab loop, she couldn't reach it, It just didn't work. The one in the front, no better. The other thing is, again, for so many people watching this video, looking at these boats, they're going to be looking for something in these boats that doesn't exist in all of the old boats waiting to be pulled out of garages. I know, not everyone uses it. If you wanted, you could drill it in, blah, 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 but it should be there. It's still a modern feature. It should be there. Better to have it and not use it than not have it and want it. Now, on the flip side, let me come back to the cockpit rim. One of the things that I really kind of took for granted and forgot about until I circled back and paddled my collection again after the Nova was you are just always taking on water. Either you have a new style skirt that doesn't fit the old style boat right, or the old style boat cockpit rim just wasn't dry, or some bolts leaking water, or whatever it is. There's always a reason. These stupid things are never dry. And in this style of boat with the really wingy ends, you need a dry boat. That water sloshing around has a huge impact on performance. It's either gonna screw you up on a wave, or it's gonna bounce you when you're trying to cartwheel, or whatever it is. So there is no understating how incredibly important it is that this boat is just dry with a really good cockpit rim. The other thing about that is, in the event that something goes horribly wrong, you can actually get out of this thing. If you pin, you're gonna be able to get out of this oversized cockpit rim. That's huge to me. For some paddlers who, maybe aren't as limber as they used to be, this is gonna be huge for you too. Getting in and out of full slice boats has never been fun. But in this thing, with the high knee position, the big old cockpit, you're gonna be able to get in and out, and it's not gonna drive you crazy. You're also gonna be able to wear shoes, which is a big, big deal. If you're creeking, you always wanna have shoes on. And yeah, it's just all of those modern details in this old school boat, plus the fact that you're bringing the level of technology forward by 20 years, and the amount of testing and prototypes and testing and prototypes that went into this boat, that's what turned out this product. There is so little that I can say negatively towards the Supernova. It is fantastic. One of those boats that I'm sad to be done reviewing because I have to give it back now. Speaking of which, huge shout out to Charles Weigel. He is my local brand new Dagger athlete. He made sure I got this basically before he did so that this review could go out. So Dagger, please hook him up. Thank you. Otherwise, this would not be going out. So after a month of big water and creaking and river running and easy stuff and just playing on eddy lines and comparing to the old and the new and the whatever, they just nailed this boat. It's easily the best in class. It's not an argument. It is absolutely fantastic. And I know what a lot of people are gonna say is, Alex, that's great, but I can't even get one. Well, I work in manufacturing now too. I can tell you that if they could get you one, they would love to sell you one. If they can't do that, there's probably a good reason for it. So it is what it is, and they will be around when they can make them. Beyond that, I don't have a crystal ball or, a mole inside the company to tell me when it's gonna change, but businesses make money. When they can change it, they're gonna change it. The other thing I've heard some people say is, wow, the stated weight is 36 pounds or whatever that is. That's more than some of the competitors. Well, as someone who cuts a lot of boats apart, I can tell you that Dagger never goes thin on plastic. And that's a really good thing for this boat. You want that thickness because you are going to be rock splatting, rock spinning, grinding it down your local run at way too low a flow. All of those things. So don't complain about 2 pounds of free plastic. That's just another half a season that you're gonna get out of this boat. So to put a bow on this boat is absolutely fantastic. For those of us that have 9-to-5s, our ability to travel the country or the world is limited. We need to be able to go out and maximize our local runs even when they're low in the middle of the summer, or have fun teaching even though it's the 1000th time we've done it. This boat's absolutely fantastic for that. You know, I call going full slicing silly boating. That's exactly what it is. But this does it with a much higher level of performance. It's going to let you be more comfortable physically, more comfortable in terms of your headspace. The performance is so high that if you're like me, you'll be able to do things you have not been able to do before. And I just think that for those of us that can afford to buy a brand new boat to enhance our experience, this is such a winner. It is easily going to have a very strong staying power in the market, and frankly, that's why Dagger made 2 sizes. They wanted people to be able to get in the right size. They probably don't intend to make another full slice boat for at least another 10 years, so they wanted to get it right the first time. And again, testing, being willing to invest in multiple prototypes. The amount of work that went into this boat was monstrous, and it just shows itself everywhere. It might be Snowy's ultimate masterpiece. It's absolutely fantastic. With the 2 little nitpicks aside, there really isn't anything that I would change about this boat. There are so many moving components in a full slice boat. To get all of them right at the same time is an amount of sweet spotting that is incredibly difficult. So hats off to Dagger, hats off to Snowy. This is one for the ages.